there. Subscribe to my channel. And also press this bell icon.
Pag-phase out sa mga traditional na jeepney para palitan ang mga mukhang bus na sasakyan pinigilan ni Senator Raffy Tulfo dahil modus lang daw ito ng mga LTO at LTFRB para magpayaman at magnakaw ng pondo.
Recognize Senator Raffy Tulfo.
Grace po, I would like to commend you on your passionate and in pursuing this resolution for our hardworking jeepney drivers. Mr. President, ang bottom line dito sa nakikita ko ay salapi. May mga gustong kumita. Unang-una na dyan, they're now salivating. Tumutulo ng laway nito mga taga-LTFRB na atat ng kumita ng mga pilak. God knows who does not pay. Alam niyo po yung sa jeepney? Nakalagay, God knows who does not pay. Maraming mga hudas. Yes, na gustong yumaman. Gustong tumiba-tiba. At the expense of the mga pobreng jeepney drivers. Just imagine, 2.4 million po ang halaga ng yung modernized jeep na sinasabi nila. At 300,000 naman po ang mabibigyan na subsidy. So 2.1 million po ang kailangang pagbabayaran ng mga jeepney drivers. Alam naman po ng mga taga-LTFRB kung magkano lang po kinikita ng isang jeepney driver sa maghapon. Ang marami sa kanila hindi pa nga po makabuo ng boundary. Ang ilan sa kanila kahit isang tuka dahil nga po mahina ang kita. Pagkatapos kakargahan ng 2.1 million pesos na poproblemahin babayaran, ang kakapal ng mga mukha nito mga nagtutulolaway ng mga taga-LTFRB. At tama kayo, Mr. President, I agree with you. Yung mga taga-LGU, ay kanya-kanyang diskarte. Ay magbigay ng rota dahil gusto nilang sarili yung rota, kailan dumaan sa kanila. I have so many experiences, hindi naman po lahat. Ito mga taga-LGU, gustong kumita. Hinuhuli po yung mga jeepney drivers. Hinuhuli po yung mga tricycle sapagkat gusto nilang magkaroon ng sarili nilang unit. Gusto nilang maging mga operators. Marami din sa mga taga-LGU, again, hindi naman po lahat na mga loko-loko, unfortunately. Sa halip na kaawa ng kanilang mga constituent, mga taong bumoto sa kanila, yung pang kanilang mga ginigipit. FYI, mga taga-LTFRB, ang jeepney po ay parte na ng ating kultura. As a matter of fact, ang mga taga-ibang bansa, pinupuri po ang ating mga jeepney. At ginagamit po ito bilang tourist attraction sa kanilang lugar. Ipinagmamalaki ang jeepney natin. Pagkatapos tayo, ipipace out natin ang ganun-ganun na lamang. Ang kakapal na mukha nito mga taga-LTFRB. Ang kakapal na mga mukha nitong ilan mga taga-LGU. Hindi nag-iisip. Ang tanging iniisip lamang po nila, Mr. President, ang kanilang bulsa. And adding insult to injury, saan galing? Saan manggagaling itong mga jeepney? Galing ng China. Na kung saan, itong mga taong ito, ang hanggang ngayon, even while we speak, ay tuloy-tuloy na inapi ang ating mga mangingisda. Pagkatapos sa nating mga ngisda, tutulungan natin sila na para kumita, pagkakitaan, ang mga jeepney drivers. Para kumita, ang mga INUTIL na mga taga-LTFRB.
Thank you very much, sir, distinguished colleague.
Just a reaction. Thank you, Senator Tulfo, for your passionate speech. I know that you feel for the least of our countrymen. Alam niyo po, tama yung sinabi din ni Senator Cheese at ni Senator Tulfo. Pag itong mga binibiling mga modernized jeep na to nasira, wala namang mga dealers na yan dito eh. So yung mga parts, pahirapan ng pagkuha. Naalala rin yung mga Mahindra noon.
Of course.
Diba? Naging problema din yan, diba? Bakit tayo nagsisettle sa ganun? So, yun nga, parang merong gustong kumita. Kaya sa hearing, gusto ko rin matanong, sino ba ang nagbibigay ng accreditation sa mga kooperatiba? At paano nila, kasi bago ka sumali sa kooperatiba, sasabihin sa'yo, oh, pero i-modernize mo yung jeep mo. Dito mo lang bibilin. So, may mga, diba, meron ng mga connection sila. So, yun lamang po.
Mr. President, next is Senator Bato de la Rosa, Mr. President. I move that he be recognized, Mr. President.
Our distinguished colleague from the province of Davao del Sur and Mindanao, Senator Bato de la Rosa, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Mr. President, before I read my manifestation,
I just would like to encourage the chairman of public services na sana during her investigation into this issue, establish natin yung sinasabi ni Senator Majority Leader na may mafia na sa likuran nito. So kawawa naman yung mga maliliit na driver natin na mahirap na nga, mamapyahin pa ng sarili niyang gobyerno. Eh kung totoo itong may mafia, dapat malaman natin ito, tulungan natin itong imbestigahan para malaman. Kasi there seems to be a scheme of everything. Pamembro ka muna ng kooperatiba, din pagkatapos sa membro, hindi ka magiging membro kapag hindi ka mag-procure yung jeep na modernized jeep. So sana ma-establish natin ito kung sino itong mga mafia na ito. And Mr. President, I stand before you today to join this August chamber in calling the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board to defer the scheduled phase-out of all traditional jeepneys by June 30, 2023. The Public Utility Vehicle Modernization Program of the Department of Transportation and the LTFRB has the most notable intention, and that is to provide a safe, convenient, contemporary, and state-of-the-art public transportation system. We in the government are doing our best to provide the riding public a hassle-free public transportation experience. However, we should be realistic in fulfilling this dream and acknowledge the difficulties that lie ahead. Today, more than ever, our compassionate hearts should speak louder than the call of modernization. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, sir. Distinguished.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a quick reaction to the statements made by our dear colleague, my good friend, Senator Bato de la Rosa. I actually wanted to put on record, Mr. President, that no less than the Secretary of the OTR himself, Secretary Tugade, before the pandemic, Mr. President, told our staff in my office, here in this August chamber, Mr. President, sa kanya mismo nang galing. Ang daming mafia dyan. May mga mafia dyan. May mga corrupt dyan sa LTFRB. I just wanted to put that on record, Mr. President, that it's not just me, but even then the OTR Secretary made mention of that words, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator.
Mr. President, I would also like to express I would like to recognize that, I would like to say that Senator Joel has always been active in our hearings. That's why all that he's saying is from his stock memory of what transpired. In fact, he was the one that brought out the issue that in his province, there are those that invested already in the modernization, in anticipation that the modernization will be fully implemented, bought already units to sell, but since the drivers themselves don't have money to buy the units, the ones that anticipated and invested already lost money. Di ba? Lumubog na yung negosyo nila. So that's all, Mr. President. I'd like to thank our majority leader also for taking active study and notice on this particular issue.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, Madam Chair. Mr. President, next to make a manifestation is the distinguished gentleman from Cavite, Senator Francis Tolentino. I move that he be recognized, Mr. President.
Our distinguished colleague from Cavite, Senator Francis Tolentino, is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I think the sponsor just left the hall. Just two questions. Just a quick manifestation and perhaps 2 mini questions, Mr. President. Mr. President, as a Caviteño, Mr. President, I joined I think we should suspend for a minute, Mr. President.
I'll wait for you to finish.
I joined the good sponsor in advocating the restoration of the dignity of our jeepney drivers. My former life involved me several years in having daily engagements with FEDJUDAP, ALTODAP, Pasang Mazda, etc., etc. And Piston. And Mr. President, as a Caviteño, I grew up in an era wherein Leonardo Sarao from Silang, Cavite was really the king of jeepney manufacturing, Mr. President. And the same is true with Malagasang jeepney coming from Imos, Mr. President. So, naniniwala po ako na kailangan bigyan po ito ng second look. But just the same, Mr. President, I'd like to pose these two questions, lingering questions, which probably would be answered during the committee hearing to be conducted, or perhaps today, if the good lady sponsor would yield. Mr. President, how much was the government expenditure, if any, what is the total amount if there were contracted loans made concerning this jeepney modernization program? So first. Second, was there a revision of the current car manufacturing program to include a hybrid jeepney modernization program? The reason why I'm asking this is because I've seen several versions. I've seen a van as big as a coaster with the nameplate jeepney. I've seen a minibus with designated as jeepney. I've seen a bigger version of a jeep with the inscription e-jeepney. So was there a revision of our existing car manufacturing program to include this program? Thirdly,
Mr. President,
yes.
I would like to thank our colleague from Cavite. In fact, these are precisely the questions we'd like to ask in the hearing because they haven't been updating us for so long. Yun nga, tama sinabi niyo, there's no uniformity or somehow it's based on the discretion of the cooperative. And number two, yun nga, with what you're saying about the hybrid part, diba? Kasi bago na, baka naman by the time ma-modernize, hindi na modern yung Euro 4 nila, diba? So, we will ask. And how much did they loan to these corporate, or how much was already disbursed in terms of loans or support, what do you call this? Support for the jeepney drivers, how much was the total? We will get that total, hopefully, from
Thank you,
Land Bank, DBP, and as well as the OTR.
Thank you, Mr. President. Those three questions probably, if answered during the committee hearings, would perhaps simplify and explain to our colleagues why this process should be stopped, should be improved, or should be given a longer transition period. That's all, Mr. President. Maraming salamat po sa inyong oras.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next to
Thank you
make a
very
short
much.
manifestation is the distinguished gentleman from Valenzuela City, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian. I move that he be
A
recognized.
city that has a lot of jeepneys also.
Yes, Mr.
Thank you,
we
Mr.
recognize
President.
our distinguished colleague, Senator Gatchalian.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, initially when this modernization program was implemented, I found merit in the modernization program, Mr. President. Number one, it will transition the old jeepney vehicles to a much more modern, fuel efficient, as well as environmentally friendly. If Euro 4 is considered a little bit more friendlier than the usual diesel. It will increase the carrying capacity of our traditional jeeps from 12 to 20 passengers to about 30 to 40 passengers. But the most important, Mr. President, is the rationalization of the routes. That's the most important because to date, I remember, and this is the time when Senator Tolentino was our chairman of the MMDA. To date, there is no, as far as I'm concerned, there is no official passenger count per route. And it's very difficult to count passengers per route. So, in other words, coming up with a route rationalization plan really takes a lot of effort and science to come out with that. But I found merit in the modernization program, Mr. President. But the business plan of the modernization program has been thrown off, way off the original proposal. And one important reason to that, Mr. President, is the increase in fuel cost because of the Russian invasion. During the 2017 unveiling of this rationalization program, a portion of the fares earned by the jeepney drivers will go to the payment of the modern jeeps. At that time, Mr. President, the cost of fuel is about 20 to 30 US dollars per barrel. Right now, Mr. President, it's hovering around 80 to 90 dollars per barrel. And we can see per liter cost of diesel and gasoline hovers around 60 to 70 pesos. So the take-home pay of our drivers has gone down dramatically, Mr. President. So paano ho nila babayaran pa yung modernization kung ang presyo po ng krudo ay napakataas at patuloy na tumataas dahil hindi pa ho tapos yung Russian invasion. And it can spike up until the threat of a global disruption is there. Prices of fuel can go up. So, Mr. President, I support the call of our good chairman of the Public Service Committee to look into this matter very carefully and have a longer hearing, Mr. President, because the business model has been thrown off by the increase in fuel. And ngayon ho, ang naiipit po sa gitna ay ating mga jeepney drivers, no? Dahil hindi naman nila kontrolado ang krudo, hindi naman nila kontrolado ang presyo ng langis. At sila po yung naiipit sa pagbabayad po nitong modernization program. So dapat po tignan ng masusi at mabuti kung yung business model ba right now is applicable pa o hindi na. So I commend the good sponsor for bringing this to fore. Thank you, Mr. President.
Kung ikaw ay mayroong opinion sa isyong ito, malaya kayong makakapagkomento dahil open ang comment section para sa inyong saloobin. Maraming salamat po. Hanggang sa muli. Para sa mas marami pang showbiz update at political na issue, mangyaring laging nakasubaybay sa channel na ito. God bless us all.